And do you believe that an inherent flaw in progressivism is that progressives want to force society to change? Because, in a sense, they're trying to impose their will on individuals' rights. What do you think is the most probable explanation for material existence? Like, why does anything exist instead of nothing? So, if you don't believe in God, the extent that morality matters to you as an individual is to the extent that it benefits you, because to the extent that you benefit, it means you as a conscious being have, in a sense, reached your teleos, which is maximal happiness and maximal life-sustaining values, maximal fulfillment and pleasure, and minimum suffering and pain. Therefore, to you as an individual, from your perspective, morality is not about serving a higher power or serving other people. Morality is about maximizing your pleasure and your happiness and your fulfillment.
No, I don't think morality applies. So I agree, your decisions are going to be made based on like your self-interest and stuff, but I don't think morality plays into that. I think morality is a broader thing.
What I'm saying is, if you don't believe in God, that's morality by definition.
I think morality by definition has to do with the well-being of conscious creatures on the whole, not just you. All right, what do you want to do? What are you here for?
So I wanted to talk about the meaning of life, free will, and philosophy.
Oh, fuck. Sure, whatever.
I think previous guy, he's a Muslim or something. I think he's a little bit kooky, to be honest. Even though I'm religious, I think that he doesn't exactly represent that side very well.
Yeah.
But basically, the way I'm gonna ask you this: what, in your opinion, is the meaning of life?
I don't think there is like a quote unquote objective meaning to life. I think it more or less just has to do with trying to.
Or can I rephrase that real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Have you ever heard of the Greek word teleos?
Yes, I've heard it.
The Greek word teleos, I believe, roughly means
something
in its idealized, actualized state.
My headphone's connected
to my phone. Just listen 1 second.
So I can't hear you right now.
So basically, I guess what I'm asking you is, in your opinion, as a conscious human being who exists in the universe, what is your teleos?
You have to hold on. You're gonna have to restart.
Idealized, actualized form. What was that?
Hold on. I got a phone call and my Bluetooth headphones connected to my phone when I got a phone call, and I couldn't hear you. So you explain teleos again. Just start over with that definition.
So a teleos basically is something in its actualized, like, most ideal form. So in your opinion, what is the most ideal way to live life?
Get paid, get laid, Gatorade.
No, like, I mean, on a philosophical level, and then we can start going into like a day-to-day level. But first, we'll start on a philosophical.
I don't. That's a hard question. I haven't thought about that too much. I think more or less it has to do with like maximizing long-term happiness and fulfillment. So, yeah, maximizing.
Just let me speak. Okay.
My desires, basically.
I got my answer. Now I'm going to respond to that. I'm going to posit to you, where does fulfillment come from? I
don't know. I'd have to think about this more. I'm not like super. I want to be clear. I'm not like, I haven't thought about this, so I'm not super committed to any position here. But basically, I would say it seems like we have desires, and it seems like when we get what we desire, they are fulfilled, and we feel a little happy.
So basically, you don't believe that meaning is something that is external. You don't believe that a higher power grants meaning, but meaning is internal, up to the individual. Yeah.
Yes.
Now let me ask you this: on a, do you know who the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche is?
Yeah.
So Friedrich Nietzsche basically wrote a book called The Gay Science. Now, gay doesn't actually mean gay.
Yeah, I know. It means happy.
It just meant happy. He also wrote Death Spoke Zarathustra and a couple of other books.
I know.
And basically,
I haven't read them, but I know.
And basically, listen, please don't interrupt. Nietzsche's main thesis was that because of secularization that happened as a result of the Enlightenment and scientific discoveries, the West was now going to enter a period where religion is not very prominent. And many people are going to become atheistic, and this atheism is going to lead to a crisis of nihilism. That's people believing that there is no meaning of life. What I would posit to you is that if, because of how human beings relate to the world around them, I believe there is a meaning of life, and that meaning of life is serving something that is, well, not necessarily serving someone higher, but acting in accordance with the will of something that is higher than them. So in a sense, I guess you could use the Nietzschean will to power analogy. I guess you could also say the criticism of Ayn Rand that I would have is that Ayn Rand believed, individual pursuit of self-interest is happiness, and I wouldn't disagree with that. I believe self-interest is important, but she believed self-interest was necessarily tied to atheism. She believed that self-interest was a material pursuit, whereas I would argue that yes, selfishness and self-interest is not a bad thing for conscious beings to experience, but so long as that selfishness should be in the context of eternal values and recognizing you as a conscious being are created. So I basically believe, using Aristotle's law of the unmoved mover, that since something exists rather than nothing, it's more likely that something existed infinitely, like eternally, that had the creative power to create the universe. And I believe that is what we'd call God, and that basically individuals living in their self-interest, but in accordance with God's will, because God is your creator. So in the same way that you respect your parents because they created you and gave birth to you and took care of you, you should have some reverence for God because God created you. You should live in accordance with God's will in the same way you live in accordance with your parents' will, because God formed you just like your parents created you. That doesn't mean you can't also pursue your material happiness, because God also created the material world for your benefit and for human beings' benefit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we're just never gonna I'm never gonna agree with that just because I don't believe in God, which we've had a little bit of that discussion before.
The reason I guess the critique I have of atheism is that the idea that there is no higher power or that the material world is all that exists is a claim that has not been substantiated, because we have made new discoveries about how the material world has existed since having more, and we're still making new discoveries about how the material world exists. So what makes you think, we discovered atoms exist, and we discovered molecules exist, and we discovered string theory might be possible, and some scientists even posit the multiverse is possible. So if scientists are constantly making new discoveries, what makes you think this one area we're going to shut our mind off and say, no, God is completely beyond, despite the fact existence exists?
I don't think that we can prove or disprove the existence of God. I just don't see the burden of proof is on the theist, and they just haven't met their burden of proof.
Do you think it's possible we live in a multiverse world?
I think it's possible.
What?
I think it's possible. Yeah.
Do you believe there's any? Do you think it's probable in any way?
I haven't done reading into it or anything, but I would say no. It's probably not that probable.
What do you think is the most probable explanation for material existence? Why does anything exist instead of nothing?
That's what I'm reading right now. I would want to finish all this stuff before I get into any big debates over it. But basically, it seems like logically we can conclude that there's some necessary contingent state that had to exist. Yeah.
And why? Well, so have you ever heard of René Descartes?
Yeah, I have, but I don't.
So René Descartes basically created Cartesian rationalism. So basically, the idea is, I think, therefore I am. I am a conscious being,
I know.
and because I'm a conscious being who thinks, I must exist. Because if for me to have consciousness and for me to think, there has to be something with consciousness and something to think. And that something is proof of existence. My question is, why do we live in a state of reality? Why do we live in a metaphysical reality where anything exists?
What do you mean, why?
Why?
I don't think there's a good answer for.
Why is it more likely that existence exists instead of existence doesn't exist? So why did that happen if not God creating it?
Why does it have to be more likely for it to have happened?
We know existence exists. I'm not denying that. What I'm saying is, why would existence exist if not a higher power creating the will of it to exist?
Wait, what do you mean? Why? I don't believe there's a
I'm saying,
fundamental
why does
reason why.
existence exist in your opinion? On a physical level, on a metaphysical level,
On a
whatever.
physical level, it seems. Oh fuck! I need to take notes on this too. Thanks for reminding me. On a physical level, basically, it seems like. I mean, Do you believe in evolution? Can I ask that first?
Yes.
You do.
Yes. I'm an
Okay,
older
so
creationist.
yeah, okay. So with like you're basically asking me like why evolution happens, and it's like I don't believe there's
No,
a
not why. I'm not talking about physical. I mean, the very notion of existence. Why does anything in the universe, period, exist? Why is there such a thing as a universe?
oh well I don't believe there's an answer to that. I don't believe there's an answer to like why. It just seems like it had to happen. What do you mean? Like it?
Well, I'm saying I don't know how much you've been listening. What I'm saying is existence exists. We know existence exists. Why does existence exist?
Yeah,
Why isn't there non-existence?
I don't believe there's a good answer to that.
Well, what I'm positing to you is the most likely explanation for that is a higher transcendent power who had the will to create it. In the same way that when you have the will to create something in your life, like you cook a food or you make a new piece of clothing, that is your will being actualized. And similarly, the existence of the universe, I believe, is the will of a higher power being actualized, and that higher power I would consider God.
I
Does
mean,
that
it's
make
just
sense?
like I just don't see. I just don't find there has to be a why behind it. Like it can just be the case that it exists. Like
No,
I don't
but I'm
think there
saying,
has to be a why behind it.
what caused it to exist, I suppose.
It seems like that's what I'm reading right now, my guy. It seems like there's a necessary contingent state that had to logically we can conclude at time equals 0 this had to exist, and there was a contingent state that had to exist basically. And I don't think there's a why behind it. Or I don't think there has to be a why behind it. At least.
What is the logical reason for it then?
What do you mean? What's the logical reason for it?
You said we can conclude logically there always had to be some contingent.
Because existence exists right now, so logically at time equals 0, there had to be a initial state of reality, right?
So do you believe that the universe is something that came from nothing, or do you believe existence has always existed?
I mean, it has. Well, we don't know, right? So we don't know whether the universe.
Do you believe that existence has always existed or no?
Well, time gets really complicated when the whole universe is in a hot, dense state. But basically, yeah.
So you do believe in physical infinity is possible?
I believe it's possible for there to be a necessary contingent state that the universe had to exist in.
That would have to be a physical contingent state, not a theoretical one.
Yeah.
So, and I'm confused why does that contingency exist? I'm not saying it had a creator.
Because it had to. Well, I don't believe there's an answer to why.
You're not listening. You keep interrupting me. I'm asking, why do you come to the conclusion that that had to exist?
Because it exists. Because the universe exists now. So that logically, there had to be an initial state of the universe.
But what I'm saying is that initial state. I'm asking, at that point, why did that exist?
Why? Because it logically can be the only thing that did exist. It's a non-causal thing, right? That's the contingent state argument. Is that there logically had to be a non-causal contingent state.
So what you're saying is that now the fact that the universe existed now basically means it existed at some point?
The fact that the universe exists now does mean that it did exist. It had to exist. It had to have an initial state, right?
Yes. And what I'm saying is, in the same way that the universe exists, in the same way a pizza exists, a pizza had to have a maker that made that pizza. So what I'm saying is,
this is composition fallacy.
That a higher power who had the creative will to create the universe created that initial state. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but there's this composition fallacy. You're assuming that because something's true within the universe, it has to be true of the universe itself. It doesn't have to be true of the universe itself.
But I'm saying all the laws of physics that we currently can observe, and all empirical reality says yes.
that's just composition facts. Just because we observe something within the universe doesn't mean it's true of the universe itself. And again,
It
I'm
doesn't
going to
mean
appeal
that
to.
it's clear. I think it makes it more likely from our perspective to say it's the most likely outcome.
I don't think that we can logically conclude that the universe had to be created, but I think we can logically conclude that there did have to be an initial state of the universe, that there was a necessary initial state that existed.
I guess the bottom line is what I'm trying to say. I don't disagree with you. There was some initial state of the universe. What I'm saying is the fact that there was an initial state. Like one of Nietzsche's ideas is that like the universe is sort of governed by will to power. What I would say to that is that, in a sense, in order for things to exist, that they involve a will to power. What I'm saying is the very notion of existence itself is also part of a will to power, but part of a will to power that is transcendent from a higher power. So in the material world, the will to power is actualized by human free will making decisions, and those decisions being done in a creative process in a way that changes the material world. Well, I'm saying the creation of the material world, that also is part of a will to power, and that will to power is done by what I would call a god. Does that make sense?
I mean, it makes sense, but we're just like, I'm just never going to agree that there has to be a why behind it. And I have one more question, because you mentioned free will. Do you think that if there isn't a god, do you think that free will can exist?
Yes, most definitely.
Okay. I don't really agree with that.
Well, there's actually a video from an atheist he's a Nietzschean. He's an Israeli. Have you ever heard of his name? Is Zarathustra's serpent?
Maybe. I think I might have been linked a video of his one time, but
oh yeah, I've linked him before. He was the
Israeli liberal that we watched the article. Yeah, yeah.
He actually has a video critiquing Sam Harris about free will. So I don't know if he's an atheist, but he's sort of agnostic. He's a Nietzschean guy. He's pretty, and basically he had a video critiquing the idea that there can't be free will. Let me ask you this. So you believe that there isn't a God. Do you believe that within the framework of human society, there is such a thing as like a higher purpose without a supernatural purpose? Like, do you believe even if there's not literally a God, there is some sort of higher purpose all human beings strive towards?
When you say higher purpose, you have responsibilities beyond yourself, obviously. Like, people get fulfillment out of like having children and bringing up that child, right?
I listen to like Ayn Rand, right? Like, morality comes from man's pursuit of his self-interest. So I guess sort of a Randianism.
What? Sorry, can you repeat the last thing you said?
I guess sort of like Ayn Rand would say, like, man's purpose comes from his pursuit of his self-interest. Then I guess what you're proposing is a sort of Randianism where, you do what you do because it gives you fulfillment and it's a life-sustaining.
Well, I was just mentioning like it seems like people enjoy like serving a higher purpose in a sense that they enjoy having responsibilities to things like other than themselves. So like children is the big thing that like brings people fulfillment, even though
their self-interest is what I'm saying.
But it's not only in their self-interest; it's in their child's interest too, right?
I know, but
like they get fulfillment out of fulfilling the needs of the child.
Me.
Oh my God! I was talking the whole time, and you interrupted me.
Serving their children is what I'm saying.
Sure, but they also are fulfilling that child's needs, right?
That's the bottom line. That's my only point. You didn't listen.
I was listening. Okay.
Okay. So what I'm saying is, what you're proposing is sort of like an Ayn Rand philosophy of man's, morality comes from his pursuit of his self-interest, and that includes taking care of other people, that they are beneficial to his self-interest.
I mean, I don't believe that's where morality comes from, but I believe that's where fulfillment tends to come from, right?
But presumably, if we live in the atheistic world where morality doesn't come from God, morality would still come from fulfillment, right? That's sort of the definition of morality. Morality is what you should and shouldn't do. What you should and shouldn't do is what gives you fulfillment if it's not to serve a higher power. And if it's not to serve a higher power, like fulfillment, that would be self-interest, and I guess that would be a sort of like, Ayn Rand philosophy.
Well, I would believe morality comes from the well-being of conscious creatures, and like you can argue that can be enabled by serving a higher power.
Individual, yes.
What you were like cutting out? What's the last thing you said?
What I'm saying is, in a godless world, you as a conscious creature would pursue what's in your self-interest, and that's like an Ayn Rand ideology.
Sure.
Would you say you agree with that?
I mean, I don't agree that's where morality comes from, but yeah.
But would you say, then do you believe objective morality exists?
Yeah, I don't, again, I believe it comes from the well-being of conscious creatures. Now, if you want to argue that well-being is achieved through serving a higher power.
You keep
my God.
rambling. I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is, in a godless world, the most logical you would propose would be the well-being of you as an individual consciousness. So not, some mystical conscious collective made in the image of God, like religious people do, but rather your individual experiences and conscious experiences, and really morality is what is beneficial to your conscious experience, because you as a conscious experience want the best for yourself, and that is what gives you meaning, and that meaning is what we call morality, right? I do make a lot of money, or I do have sex with women that I love, or I do take care of sick people, or I do listen to Joe Rogan, talk to Sarah Silverman, because these things make me happy.
But I think morality does have to do with more than just the well-being of you. It has to do with the well-being of all conscious creatures. It's not just you, it's also other people.
I would agree with that to the extent that I believe we're all made in the image of God, but if you're an atheist, why do you believe that?
Why do I believe? Because I believe the world of the maximal possible suffering of every conscious creature is worse than a world of where that's not happening, where every conscious creature is not suffering as much as they possibly can.
But if you would get less suffering from another person, but I'm saying if you would get less suffering, and by necessity, another person would have to suffer more, or at least not suffer nearly as much as you, that's still in your self-interest.
Wait, you're saying the other person would suffer not as much as I gain? Or are you saying?
What I'm saying is, to the extent that everyone is being happy in an atheistic world, it would be only the individual's happiness which really matters, and the extent other people's happiness matters is not, because you're experiencing their suffering, but because you care about them. But the extent you care about them, again, is beneficial to you and your values, but that's still you as an individual, not them.
So sure, when you're talking about you personally and meaning for you, I would agree. But again, morality on the whole is going to have to deal with every single conscious creature. So just because something is in your self-interest doesn't mean it's moral.
What I'm trying to say is morality from your perspective only comes from you.
What do you mean? So when you say from your perspective, I don't think there's a morality from your perspective. I think there's...
Well, I'm going to explain this, and you're going to listen, and you're not going to interrupt me. Do you understand?
I do. I haven't been interrupting you. I've answered your questions. Okay.
So basically, if you don't believe in God, you don't believe that the purpose of morality is to serve a higher power, correct?
Yeah.
So if you don't believe in God, the extent that morality matters to you as an individual is to the extent that it benefits you, because to the extent that you benefit, it means you as a conscious being have, in a sense, reached your teleos, which is maximal happiness and maximal life-sustaining values, maximal fulfillment and pleasure, and minimum suffering and pain. Therefore, to you as an individual, from your perspective, morality is not about serving a higher power or serving other people. Morality is about maximizing your pleasure and your happiness and your fulfillment. And your decisions are going to be within that framework. To the extent that other people benefit you, you are going to go out of your way to help them and take care of them and alleviate their suffering, because they benefit you and they are of value to you and they bring you consciousness and happiness. And that, what I'm saying is, from an atheist perspective, that is what morality is.
No, I don't think morality so I agree your decisions are going to be made based on like your self-interest and stuff, but I don't think morality plays into that. I think morality is a broader thing.
What I'm saying is, if you don't believe in God, that's morality by definition.
I think morality by definition has to do with the well-being of conscious creatures on the whole, not just you.
Now, where did you derive that from?
What do you mean, where did I derive that from? That's definition.
Why do you have that definition is what I'm asking.
Because it seems like the only thing that we can possibly value when it comes to right and wrong is the well-being of conscious creatures. That seems like the only logical thing that we can value.
And why is that?
Because anything else just doesn't make sense. Anything that doesn't have an effect on conscious creatures doesn't make sense.
What I provided was perfectly coherent and is a way for you to live your life in a way that will fulfill your happiness. So why is it wrong? What do you mean?
But a way to live your life is not morality.
Does not make sense.
A way to live your life is not morality. You can have a moral code in which you live your life by.
Let me ask you this: define morality. Just give me your definition of morality.
I would say
morality is. The definition of what a moral system is what I'm asking.
What a moral system is? A moral system is some system that helps you act morally. I don't know. What do you mean by moral system?
And now I'm asking you define morality. That's all I'm asking.
Morality, I would say morality broadly has to do with right and wrong actions when it comes to the well-being of conscious creatures.
No. So morality is simply what is basically an ought and not statement. So morality basically is, is this action moral? Is ought you do it or ought you not do it? So if it is moral, you ought do it, and if it is immoral, you ought not do it. For example, it is immoral to, in my belief, to rob a bank. Therefore, you ought not do it. And it is moral to if you are hungry, eat and satiate yourself, so that way you won't die of starvation. That is what you ought to do. If in my religious morality is serving a higher purpose of your creator, and that is God, and God has instructed you with a certain moral system. If you're an atheistic person, you don't believe God is instructed with morality. I believe the atheistic perspective would be, my morality is going to be what ought to do, and what ought not do is going to be determined by my self-interest, right? So my self-interest might say, I ought go eat pizza because it brings me happiness. But you could also say, I ought not eat pizza because that might make me fat. But then you say, I might. And so basically, this atheistic morality is determining what you should and shouldn't do by prioritizing what's going to make you happy and what's going to be of less distinct value. And you might have to do certain things. So if you might do something that's dangerous, then that might mean you're taking the downside of potential harm, but it also might mean you're accomplishing something greater. So perhaps the benefits outweigh the harms, or the potential harms. So these are all going to be individual decisions you're going to have to make as an individual, but the bottom line is it's going to be, from your perspective, what's the best to help you as a conscious being do life-sustaining values, and the individual aspects of how to manage that are sort of beyond the scope of this current conversation. Does that make sense?
I want to say the same thing I said like 10 times. I think morality on the whole has to do with the well-being of all conscious creatures, not just you.
But you didn't explain why you have that definition. You just said it makes the most sense, but you didn't explain why it makes the most sense. Because
logically, that's the only thing that we can value. I can't think of anything else that we could value other than the well-being of conscious creatures, and it'd still be morality.
I could value all sorts of things that are stupid, or right, I have the potential.
Yeah, exactly, but they're stupid.
What do you mean?
Like here's an example. So like when we do science, right? When we do arguments, we value logical consistency, right? And we value being coherent, because it doesn't make any sense to value anything else, right? In the same way, when we do morality, it doesn't make any sense to value anything else.
What I just proposed was logically coherent.
I never said it wasn't. What?
You said morality has to be logically coherent. I provided you a logically coherent moral system.
What I said when we do like science experiments, we value like logical consistency, and we value like repeatable results. I just explained
a logical, consistent morality. Do you agree with it? Yes or no?
Oh my god! I don't think morality has to do with.
I'm just going to ask this one more time. Do you agree with what I just proposed as a moral system about God?
No,
yes or no?
I don't. A moral system? No.
Why do you disagree with it as a moral system?
Because I don't think morality has to deal with you as an individual. I think morality has to deal with the well-being of all conscious creatures.
Why does it not have to deal with you as an individual?
Because I think the only thing that we can value when it comes to morality is the well-being of all conscious creatures.
And why do you believe that?
Because that's the only thing we can possibly value. It doesn't make sense to value anything else.
What do you mean
in the same way,
why is that the only thing we can possibly value?
Because it doesn't make sense to value anything else.
What do you mean it doesn't make sense?
Morality definitionally
by what metric?
What do you mean by, so in the same way that like when we do science experiments, right? Like we value like logic, right?
I
That's
just
a value.
explained to you why it's logically coherent, and you didn't listen.
No, I'm using an analogy. I didn't even say like what you said it was illogical. I'm just saying.
Hey,
I'm just using an
tell me why you
analogy.
don't believe it's the most moral system, or I'm done with you.
Tell me why. What?
Tell me why what I proposed as an atheistic moral system, you don't agree with as a moral system.
Because I think morality has to do with the well-being of all conscious creatures, not just you as
No,
an
I asked you
individual.
why you believe that, and you still have not provided me an answer.
Because that's the only thing we can possibly value. Just as in the same way when we do science, we have to value logic. In the same way when we do morality, we have to value the well-being of conscious creatures. That's just what morality is.
So what you're saying is morality isn't what you ought and ought not do. It's its own definition you just made up.
It is what you ought and ought not do. It's just that that's going to relate to the well-being of conscious creatures.
Why should I ought not do anything that is concerned with the well-being of all conscious creatures? Why should I ought or ought not do?
Because it's either going to increase or decrease the well-being of conscious creatures.
From my perspective, why does that matter?
It may not matter from your perspective, but from a moral perspective, it will matter. So if morality doesn't matter to you, that's your own problem.
Because I'm a human being, and that's not a moral value I have. So morality must not come from human beings.
Your moral values can be wrong, just like your scientific values can be wrong.
You haven't answered the question that I proposed to you.
I've answered all your questions.
You've said it's the only thing you can value. When I just explained what you can value that isn't that moral system, you just haven't explained why you disagree with that.
Because when your Ayn Rand says something,
what I proposed as a moral system, you said you don't believe is morality. You have not explained why you don't believe it's morality.
Because I think the only thing that we can possibly value when it comes to morality is the well-being of conscious creatures. I've said that like 50 times, man.
And you haven't answered why that...
Because that's the only thing we could possibly value. That makes sense to value. Just like when it comes to medicine, the only thing that we can possibly value when doing medicine is health. It doesn't make sense to value anything else for medicine than health. It doesn't make sense to value anything else for morality than the well-being of conscious creatures. And when we do science, we have to value logical consistency, and we have to value repeatable results. It just doesn't make sense to value anything else. It's just an axiomatic value thing. Yeah. Are you still here, man? I took him. Well, cool conversation. I'll give you like 2 minutes, man. Okay, what deck do you want?
Okay. I'm sorry. I'll be patient. So
Yeah, we're just running in circles. That's the only, like, I'm not like mad at you or anything, or like.
I actually understand your belief. I used to hold it. So I used to be what's known as utilitarian, where I used to believe that morality basically was about maximizing the well-being of conscious creatures. And I actually don't think that belief is completely indefensible. What I'm trying to say is, if there is no God, and I'm not saying there isn't, as I said, my personal faith is there is, but we can agree to disagree with that, and we can talk about it another time. If there is no God, morality should basically be an individual's perspective, because you're not striving to serve something higher, you're striving to serve yourself. And in that sense, I think morality, from an atheistic perspective, can only be individual and not communal. I'm saying the idea of other people factoring into the equation is sort of nonsensical, because I'm my conscious creature and I can only experience my conscious being. And I am not Sarah Silverman, and I'm not Tucker Carlson. I am Jidiox, and I care about what Jidiox wants.
Do you think that same thing applies to like health and do you think that same thing applies to medicine? That we can only value one individual's health when it comes to medicine?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, when we talk about medicine, we like have to assume that the proper.
I'm saying if there is no God, I believe there is a God. What I'm saying is,
Sure. But I'm saying, like, if there is no God,
what the goal of medicine would be is that some individuals get a rational benefit from being healthy. Therefore, they pay other individuals who will treat them, i.e., doctors, and those doctors has a rational benefit that they're getting paid for their service. So both individuals walk out having fulfilled their self-interest.
okay.
Does that make sense?
When it comes to morality, it just has to be about the well-being of everyone. It's not because there isn't.
You're right. So
you understand from my perspective. I don't think there's.
I'll concede that, but can I explain the logical outcome of that? If morality is logically about the well-being of everybody, the logical outcome of that would be everyone should pursue what's in their best interest, because what's in their best interest will, in a net, help society.
I don't necessarily. I'm a capitalist, man. I don't necessarily disagree with that. Like,
then I suppose our disagreement is not. Well, I guess the disagreement would be then is not, do we disagree on what you should and shouldn't do, but what I'm saying is but rather what the focus should be. I guess I would believe the atheistic focus is about individual creating values, and your belief, which you're an atheist, but I don't believe it's the logical outcome of atheism, is that it's still to serve some higher purpose, just other human beings and not God.
I mean, it's a higher purpose in a sense that you're serving like other humans, but kind of sure, whatever.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying if we live in the framework that there isn't a higher power, like a metaphysical higher power like God, it would be more likely that you're going have you heard of survival of the fittest? Like,
yeah,
the fittest are going to pursue what's in their best interest, and that's what's going to make them survive and reproduce. Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah. I just, again, when it comes to morality, I'm going to consider everybody, because I don't think there's 8 billion different moralities for every person. I think there's one morality, and that has to do with the well-being of everybody.
Then would be ethics versus morality. You're right. Ethics cares about everybody, but morality is for an individual. Does that make sense? So I guess ethics is the collective outcome of every individual morality, and morality is the values an individual chooses to believe in. Does that make sense?
I guess, yeah, sure.
I suppose what you're saying is you believe that ethics is about maximizing everyone's conscious well-being, but morality would be an individual self-interest. Does that make?
I mean, I just usually, when I think of ethics, I think of I basically think of ethics as like a quote unquote like science of morality. Like, I think ethics of like applied morality, basically.
Well, ethics, I would say, is applied morality on a societal level, but morality is just, what an individual ought not do. It's just the logical outcome of everybody's morality on a, broader level. It is ethics. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. When I think of morality, I think of everybody, not just my self-interest.
Yeah, but I'm saying that would be. I'm saying the term you would use, a more proper term, I would say, would be ethics, right?
Ethics. Okay, sure.
And let me ask you this: do you believe it's possible that if there isn't a God, that there's still reincarnation?
I don't believe it's impossible, but I don't think it's plausible. I don't think it's likely.
What problem do you see with the reincarnation theory? Because there are many. Did even Carl Sagan believed reincarnation was possible?
I mean, I'm sure he believed it was possible, but he also believed it was possible that there was a God, and that like we can't disprove it. But
no, but I'm saying Carl Sagan. I believe you know who Carl Sagan is.
Yeah.
I believe he said reincarnation is plausible. You want to look that up real quick?
Sure. Carl Sagan reincarnation. I've read a post. Carl Sagan wrote that there was an experimental evidence that supported a claim of rebirth, saying that young children sometimes report details of a previous life. I mean, I've read about like these stories before, but like again, it's like I don't think it's possible to prove or disprove the existence of reincarnation. But I would say I would probably think reincarnation is more likely than a God. Well, I don't know if I would say that actually. No, I don't think I would say that. No, I don't think I would. Um, yeah.
And how do you explain the phenomena of people recalling what happened in their previous lives?
I have to read into all them more, but they're probably mistaken or lying or schizophrenic. I think that's
And
all more likely than people actually having previous life
do you
experiences.
believe there are ideological merits to the notion of conservatism? So do you believe it's plausible that, we'll say, what we consider conservatism as in preserving values can be a good thing if, what's worked for us for so long, we should keep doing in the future?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think as long as the values are good, yeah. I think like if I were to be like super charitable, like I think like real conservatives, right, are like are like pro change. They just want change a lot slower, right?
I suppose you could say, yeah, conservatives, but not reactionaries. I suppose you could say.
Yeah.
On a political level, is there a reason why you support like liberalism?
I mean, it's basically I basically believe in natural rights, and like liberal principles seem to be the best at upholding those natural rights.
Where do natural rights come from?
They. It seems like natural rights uphold the well-being of conscious creatures the best. It seems like they're most conducive to well-being.
Okay, and that they allow individuals to pursue their self-interest to the extent that on a society most people are happy.
Yeah, land, liberty, and property, brother.
And do you believe that natural rights should be in the framework of sort of tradition and heritage?
I don't really care about tradition that much. Like, I don't. What do you mean by?
But do you believe that on a societal level, it is sort of, if you preserve certain traditions, it will give people more meaning?
That's definitely true for some traditions. Yeah, I like Christmas. Like I don't.
Like, for example, if someone gets pride in being an American Christian, then why attack Americanism or Christianity?
I mean, I would like. I don't want to like attack like traditions insofar as like I think they're like good and bring people together and stuff. Like I think patriotism can be important. I think like you would probably agree with this. Like we should be critical of patriotism when it leads us to do things like support wars unconditionally and stuff. Like there definitely is like an element of patriotism that can make it easy to say I'm on Team America. I fucking hate Team Iraq, and I'm gonna kill these Iraqi children. So I think we should be critical of like patriotism when it goes that far. But like generally, like yeah, I think it's like nice to have a community and have have traditions like that bring people together. I think that can be important. Yeah.
And do you believe that an inherent flaw in progressivism is that progressives want to force society to change? Because in a sense, they're trying to impose their will on individuals' rights.
No, when you say progressive, I don't like. I consider myself a progressive in most senses, but
like progressivism
it just depends.
Is about forcing societal change, but that necessarily involves forcing an inorganic change. It's top-down, forced change, not organic societal change.
I mean, the problem change can be good sometimes. So when you say forced change, like I think like a lot of things are forced changes, right? Like not everyone is going to agree with every single change that we make. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of forced changes that I would think are good. Yeah.
But what if those forced changes are not accepted by many people in society?
They can still be good even if they're not accepted by many people in society. I don't know. Like it seems like.
But that's still you trying to, think you know better than them how they should live their lives.
Because I'm right and they're wrong. But I don't like. I'm generally like. I think we should accept like tolerance, right? So like, if you want to have your if you want to have your little Sharia law Muslim town, I'm fine with that, but I don't want you to impose that on other people. In the same way, I don't want to impose like beliefs on other people, like in the same way that like Muslims like I was not Muslim, sorry, but like far right Islamists would want to do. But at the same time, I think we have to be tolerant. So I do want to impose some level of tolerance in that, like, I don't think trans people's rights should be restricted. I don't think it should be like a crime to maybe like, I think some of the laws that are like it's a crime to misgender someone. I think some of those are stupid. But I do think tolerance is important. I don't think trans people should have any less rights, and I think trans people should have a right to get HRT. Yeah, because I don't. Yeah.
And I would disagree because a man is a man and a man is a male, I believe.
True. I mean, that's fine that you believe that, but again, even if like you believe that, I would want like tolerance. Like I want a tolerant society. So it's fine if you believe that, and you can have your own. You can live in your own house and do your own shit. But
well, what if I showed you a study which proved conclusively that transsexuals are actually become more suicidal after transitioning?
I mean, you can send me. I've read a lot of other studies that show the opposite.
But I'm saying, if I could prove to you, would you be fine with the government saying doctors with licenses will have their licenses revoked if they transition people?
Probably not. Probably not. I don't know if that study that doesn't. What does that change? Like
if you could show transitioning increases suicide pretty heavily, would you be fine with the government saying doctors won't be allowed to continue having licenses if they do it because it causes people to be?
I mean, probably then, I guess. Sure. Because that treatment just wouldn't work.
What if I can link you to that study right now in Discord because I actually have it pulled up?
If I can do it, and I'll read through it, and I'll read all the fucking debunkings of it later, man.
Okay, so it's. Well, you want to read it now? It's from PubMed, so I'm going to pull it up real quick. I'm going to post it.
I'm sure it's methodologically sound, right?
Let me see. So it's hashtag LGBT. I remember it. I read it. I read parts of it. I got it. So have you ever heard of a streamer named If You're Feeling Adventurous? He's going to actually get streamed tonight.
I haven't.
I think you should talk to him. His name is, so his real name is Zach. Zachary Pieper. And basically he's a very right-wing guy. He believes the election was stolen. I have some disagreements with him, but he's pretty based on the trans issue and that he's anti-trans.
Okay.
Let's see, where should I put it in this? Should I put it in the general chat?
Sure.
Yeah. Let's see. PubMed. Okay, did it come through on your end?
Yeah, but that wouldn't even that wouldn't change. So the one thing that wouldn't change is like my belief that like trans people are real in the sense that people are born with the gender identity different than their sex. It would just change the treatment plan for it. So the treatment plan would probably just have to
Well, no. What I would say to that is that gender is sex, in my opinion. You can disagree.
I just don't. So you think if I physically put your brain in a woman's body, do you think you would still feel like a man?
Feel like or be? There's a difference between what I would feel like and what I metaphysically am.
Feel like? What would you feel like internally?
I would probably feel like I'm a man.
So you would be uncomfortable in a woman's body?
Well, not necessarily, because I would accept the reality and say, now that even though I might have, like, I like hot bitches, I like cigars or whatever, I'm still a woman. I'm in a woman's body. Because liking hot bitches doesn't make a man a man. A man is a man regardless of that.
But you would prefer to be in a male's body. So if we had surgery...
I haven't had that experience, but maybe. But that wouldn't change what I metaphysically am. So did you see the PubMed article I linked?
Yeah, I did. I have it open.
So it actually shows transsexuals are actually more suicidal 10 years after transition.
10 years? Does it go? So here's what I would wonder, does it go down at first and then basically increase to the norm later?
No, they actually come out more. What I'm saying is they become more suicidal than pre-transition.
But I'm asking like for the more suicidal than okay. So I'm asking like, does it initially go down, and then
Yeah.
10 years later it goes up again?
Well, so basically, let's say your original suicidality rate is at a 5, then it goes down for 3, then after 10 years it spikes up to like a 7.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was asking. Okay. I don't know, man. I can read it, and I'm sure I've read a lot of studies that show the opposite. So, I don't know, man. I'm skeptical of it just because of the other.
If you're feeling adventurous because he's streaming tonight, do you think you'll be able to talk to him? I'll link you his Discord if you want. Would you be willing to do it?
I don't know, man. What would we talk about? Maybe.
Well, he's a right leaning streamer, but he talks about whatever you want. So he has an open Discord, and I'll link it. Do you think you might want it?
Sure.
Here, let me see. More options. Let me see. Do you know how I copy server to send it to someone else?
You should be able to, if you have invite perms, you should be able to like click on a text channel.
Okay, then
And you
I
invited
sent
me.
it called
Yeah.
the Adventurous Conversation.
Okay, man. I might do it, but like I don't know. I want to be clear. Like I just started like doing this, right? Like I'm not very
You
like
start
good at
doing what?
like streaming political stuff, right? So like I'm not like super great at debate or anything, and like I'm trying to build up like my knowledge base.
Well, you seem like a pretty curious guy, but one flaw I think you have is that, like, I think you're much more easily acceptable narratives being spun at you if they're of the left and on the conservative side.
um, I mean, I don't. I obviously don't really think that, but I mean, everyone has their own biases, sure.
Um, and so
Hold on, does this guy have like a YouTube channel? Is his YouTube channel called the
yeah,
same
I'll
thing as
actually
the?
link. I'll. You want me to link? I'll link
Yeah,
you
link
his
his
YouTube
channel.
channel.
Yeah,
Out of curiosity, do you like Domino's food?
the pizza place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So today I actually tried their chicken habanero sandwich. It was actually pretty good. Have you ever had it?
No,
What's your favorite thing from Domino's?
I like cheese pizza.
Cheese pizza?
Yep.
And so let me ask you this. So you basically you basically do what makes you happy in life, right?
For the most part, yeah.
What are some things that make you happy? Like video games, women, jerking off, like what?
Sex, drugs, gooning, jelking. No, I don't know. Yeah, streaming and playing video games with my friends. That's basically what I do. And I go on
Streaming,
walks
playing video games.
sometimes.
You get do you know what you want to do for a job long term?
Um, can we get some super chats in here for that one chat? Exclamation point donate in the chat. Let's get some follows for that chat. Please chat, please chat. I don't want a real job, chat, please chat,
Well,
please.
do you have? So you don't have a degree, but I'm asking to you, what would you like to do if you like what fields of careers would you, a lawyer or a nursing student or finance?
Something in economics, probably. Would probably want to do something in either economics or politics.
Well, I'm thinking. So I live home with my parents. I'm thinking because I'm 16. What I want to do is I'll live 2 years with my parents, commute to a local community college for 2 years, then commute, which will be pretty cheap. Then get an associate's degree, transfer to credits, and get a bachelor's from another state college while I'm still living with my parents. And given inheritance, I think between 2 years of community college and 2 years of like a pretty cheap college, probably UNO, University of New Orleans. I think I'll have enough money to do it if I live with my parents and I have inheritance. then I think I want to get a finance degree and work in stocks trading.
Work in what?
I think I want to work in like stocks trading,
Oh, stocks
and
trading.
get a
Okay.
finance degree.
Yeah, I said
Um,
work for
I'm
Fox, and
asking
I
like, what
was
gives you pleasure in life? Do you like any foods or arts or music or sports
um
or like what?
yeah, I like music and I like streaming and I like playing video games and I like gooning.
Do you like any specific food or drinks?
Um yeah, I like my Red Bull and I like my V8 energy drinks.
Do you like any food?
I mean yeah, I like my microwave vegetable lasagna meals that I make and I like mac and cheese. I like buttered noodles. I eat like a
Do you like
12-year
any
old.
spicy food?
No, I'm very white.
Uh, do you like buffalo wings?
No.
Do you like ranch or blue cheese better?
Ranch in general.
Do you like pizza?
I do like pizza.
Um, what's your favorite video games?
Um, uh, that's hard. I don't know. I like Minecraft. I've been playing Helldivers 2 recently. I play Fortnite sometimes.
Have you ever
Um,
played Power World?
I have played Power World. Yeah, I like Power World.
I heard some people are complaining it's sort of like a ripoff of what's it called?
Pokemon and
Pokemon.
Rust. Yeah,
Is it?
I don't think it's a ripoff. I mean, it definitely. I don't know. Like it. No, I don't. I want to call it a ripoff. No, I think it obviously took some of like the creature capturing things in it. But like I don't know. It just seems dumb. It seems like it should be more of like a genre than just considered like a Pokemon ripoff.
Fair enough. And I'm curious, was it not? So do you believe that? Um, so you like Fortnite. So do you generally like you like first person shooter games?
Some of them, yeah. I mean, yeah.
And let me ask you this. So have you ever? So is there a reason you want to work in have you always liked politics or economics,
Yeah,
or have you ever
basically.
liked something else?
I yeah, basic politics in like video editing and like computer stuff.
I'm saying, have you always wanted to do? I'm saying when you were a little kid, did you want to do anything else?
Yeah, I've always wanted to be either like a YouTuber or a video editor. Yeah. Um
I know, but did you always want to
and
do like
always
politics, like when you were 12 years old?
when I was 12, I was probably more into gaming, but like by the time I was in 8th grade, I had liked politics a lot. Like yeah.
I think that's fair, and I'm young, and to be honest, I'm kind of figuring these questions out myself too. But I do think right now we're living sort of a meaning. Do you know who Jonathan Haidt is?
Jonathan who?
Jonathan Haidt. Jonathan Haidt.
No, I don't.
So he wrote a book called The Coddling of the American Mind, where he basically proposes the thesis that because of how the education system sort of like tries to basically teach people like what doesn't kill you hurts you, and instead of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's like against competition, like everyone gets a medal in the competition, stuff like that. It has effectively hurt children getting a proper moral education, a proper ability to withstand the hardships.
Um, listen, I think half my generation is morally blind. Okay, so I don't know. I don't necessarily disagree with some of that stuff. I mean, there's obviously a margin. Like I think I don't know, maybe like my guess would be 50 years ago, child abuse was probably like actual child abuse, like actually like hitting your children and stuff. Hard was like a lot more common than it is today. Um,
But what I'm trying, I
but
guess,
I
what
think
I'm
when
trying to say more succinctly is that like Jonathan Haidt says, like nowadays young people are like, if it's just kind of an entitlement, it's kind of a narcissism, it's kind of not caring about competition, like a weakness.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is like once we like try to account for like the fucked up shit that was happening to children, maybe we moved like too far. I would like be open to that. Yeah, my I made a podcast about there was a text message thread on Reddit that was basically like you might disagree with this. It was basically like a millennial son texting his mom saying like, "Oh, my life is so much harder than yours. Like we don't have livable wages. You had livable wages your entire life." And like, yeah, like I definitely think there's definitely like some truth to the like idea that like millennials and Gen Z are entitled or whatever.
Yeah, but it's even beyond that. Like, what I mean is, like, because of if everyone enters a competition, therefore they get the trophy. It basically means kids nowadays go on social media and they expect to get fulfillment from likes instead of meeting people or stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, especially when it comes to social media, I'm gonna agree with you because like everyone having a phone and stuff seems to have fucked up everybody's dopamine system. Yeah.
And let me ask you this: do you like playing Jackbox games?
Yeah, I have all the Jackbox games. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'm kind of at the point where like so I do school and all that, but like I like figuring out hobbies, and I guess I use the internet quite a bit, but I try to use the internet more nowadays to see like what's happy, because I figure God created the material world and for us to enjoy to an extent, and I like to enjoy it. Like I'm not a stuck in the butt Amish person. Like I think the idea that you are going to avoid the material world, I think that is stupid. I disagree with like Luddite ideology. I just think that everything should be in perspective.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
And let me ask you this: have you ever had more conservative or other views?
I've only gotten more conservative. I basically started out as like a Bernie bro, like when I was young and Bernie was running for the first time, and I kind of got more and more socialist for a while, and like I would say, like starting last year and especially after October 7th, I started getting more and more like liberal, basically.
Well, Bernie Sanders is liberal, I thought.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah. But I'm saying I started out as a liberal and I started growing more socialist, and now I'm back to more liberal.
What's the difference between a liberal and a socialist?
Oh, but it depends how far down socialism you want to go. But so basically, typically, socialists are going to be one, they're going to promote socialism, obviously, where like liberals mostly it's still going to be capitalist. And then there are a lot of like fundamental liberal values that like some leftists don't fully agree with. So like I don't know, like depending on how far you go, freedom of speech, freedom to own property is obviously the biggest one.
Simpson is?
Who is, sorry?
Idan Simpson.
I feel like I've heard him before.
You know who
but
Polly
no.
People is?
No, I don't know that one.
Well, do you know who Haas is?
Is Haas like a streamer?
Yes, Haas Infrared.
Yeah.
And Jackson Hinkle?
I do know who Jackson Hinkle is.
Well, these guys are all socialists, but I wouldn't say they're exactly liberal.
Yeah, what do you mean? They're socialists,
so
but they're not.
You used to be like a little Jackson Hinkle.
Jackson Hinkle's on some wild shit, man. I don't know. Oh yeah, I know Haas. I don't know if I would consider Jackson Hinkle a socialist. I don't know what Jackson Hinkle is smoking.
But
I do know he's smoking.
Have more, we'll say, authoritarian leftist ideas, but you've moved away from that.
Basically, yeah. But I was also like more. I don't want to say I was authoritarian because I wasn't that authoritarian. I was definitely like leaning more towards like anarchism, Noam Chomsky-esque like stuff.
Well, that is authoritarianism in some sense. Just because it's not state doesn't mean it's not. Authoritarianism to the working class is still authoritarianism.
True. I mean,
I guess the bottom line is you become more moderate.
But yeah.
And so, but you've never really been. Have you ever been religious?
Basically only when I was like a kid, and I was like only nominally religious. Like as soon as I started like evaluating religion, like no, I've never been religious past the age of like 9.
Well, do you believe that if you had a rate on a scale of 0 to 100%, what do you think is the probability that there's a God?
That just there is a God, I would say like there's like a 5% chance. If you want to narrow it
What?
more to the Christian God, I would
A
say
zero? Wait, how much? I didn't hear you. What?
there's like a 5% chance.
A 5% chance there's a God. That's a pretty I mean, I don't know how charitable you're being.
I don't know. I haven't put that much of a number on it, but like I would say yeah, it's close to
You don't
5% that
think
there's
it's
like
like
a God.
50-50 at least?
No, I don't think it's 50-50.
Then what? I mean, that. Well, why do you think it's so low? That seems like even pretty low for an atheist.
There's just not like evidence for it. Like I just don't see that much evidence. I don't see any like valid evidence for it. So it's just like I don't know.
But I guess so. There's a difference between what we'll call a rational claim, not necessarily, or maybe not rational, a rational claim, a logical claim, claims that use logic, and claims that make empirical claims. So, like a logical claim is if you do is like so. A logical claim is sort of metaphysical, whereas an empirical claim is something about the observed nature of reality. But like I guess the logical argument for God is that like even though we can't empirically observe him, so you can't prove God exists on an empirical level, the logical claim is there's still order to the universe, and because there's order to the universe, and because there's order to how the universe mathematics operate, there being a higher power is more likely than there's not. Do you not understand the merits in that?
I mean, I understand the argument, but like, I don't think the theological argument is really valid. But like, that's why, like, I think like that's why there's a 5% chance. Yeah, and then I will say, if you want to narrow it more to like the God of the Bible, I think it's always going to be more likely that there is a God than there is a God, and that God also happens to be the God of the Bible. Yeah.
I, existence, you know, does existence doesn't need to be contingent on a higher power.
Nope. I don't think so.
But do you believe that it's more likely that a higher power willed existence than not willed it to existence? Like, do you believe it's more likely the universe sort of popped out of nothing instead of out of something else's will that transcends it?
I don't think it popped out of nothing. I think there was some initial state that had to exist.
But
That was
that initial
non-causal.
state, did that come from anywhere?
No, it's non-causal. There's probably a non-causal state that logically had to exist. But again, that's what I'm reading right now, bro. I need to, like, again, I'm building my knowledge base.
Okay,
but
I
but I would say
understand,
like,
and I'm exploring these
yeah.
questions too. It's just I just feel like if there were no God, I would lose some meaning. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. It's just that I just don't like that has nothing to do with the truth claim. But yeah, I understand. Yeah.
So you would agree with me that like there is a societal problem with atheism, but you don't believe that there's an epistemological problem with it. Like you
Um,
believe that if the human beings abandon God, they'd be more correct, but they would be living worse off lives.
no, I think some people I understand like the why people feel like they would lose meaning in their life. But I don't think I don't think there'd be a big societal collapse or anything. Like I don't know. It seems like you can find meaning in Sam Harris's meditation app. I don't think it has to come from. I don't think it has to come from the
Well,
God.
do you meditate, if I may ask?
Sometimes I haven't done it recently, but yeah, I did try Sam Harris's meditation app.
And
Oh,
do you
hey,
believe
Zach.
the universe will continue expanding on into infinity?
Probably until the heat death, right? Yeah.
Well, do you believe it's possible that there won't be a heat death and they'll just keep expanding ad infinitum because we don't observe certain parts?
Well, the heat death I thought was it expanding until it expands so much that particles can't interact with each other.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is there are some people who believe that it might expand on infinitum and it might not reach that point ever. Do you believe that's plausible?
I mean, it might be possible.
Plausible.
Sorry, I'm reading this. It's just I thought like the more the universe expands, like eventually at some point it's gonna reach like equilibrium, right? Thermodynamic equilibrium.
Well, some people say that, but some people disagree.
Okay, well,
I'm
I
saying
don't
you
know. I'd
believe
have
it's
to.
plausible that those people who disagree have the right.
What did they say exactly? That it's going to expand infinitely?
So basically, the people who believe in heat that say that the mass is going to continue expanding until basically there's not enough energy per mass for it to sustain, whereas others believe that there's that like dark matter or whatever basically can sustain it even to the extent that it's not all gonna cool down and stuff isn't all gonna stop.
Um, I don't know. I think it's possible. I don't think that's that plausible. Just because everything I've read seems like the heat death is like a um pretty good theory for what's going to happen.
Okay, and see what's the and let me, and do you have any particular other than Sam Harris, are there any philosophers, or I mean, I don't know if I would consider Sam Harris a philosopher, are there any philosophers or thinkers who's you're interested in?
I'm not that interested in people. The reason I like quote Sam Harris so much is just because Sam Harris had a really big like impact on my life. As cringe as that sounds, realistically, Sam Harris did have like a
Well,
really
no, I
big
don't think it's
impact on my
necessarily
life.
bad to be interested in, but as long as you're interested in what those people have to offer. I'm asking,
Yeah,
do
sure.
you have Nietzsche or Rand or?
No, I haven't. No, not really. It's like no. It used to be Noam Chomsky for a while, and then it kind of switched over to Sam Harris, and like it's yeah. I mean, yeah. I I guess it used to be Marx for a little bit. And I guess Keynes. I guess I read Keynes' stuff, and yeah.
um, but you never but not. I guess these are more political thinkers, but not say philosophical thinkers.
Yeah, I don't. No, not really. I don't. I haven't read much like strictly like I want to say like primary sources in philosophy. I've read like summaries of like people's ideas on philosophies, but I haven't read much of like the foundational philosophy stuff. No.
No, I don't mean read. I mean like watch videos on. Like, have you ever seen like a video which says like this is what Nietzsche's idea of the will to power is, or have you ever seen those types of videos?
I've seen those types of videos, yeah, but not on niche specifically or anything. But
And and in your opinion, do you think it's more likely that in the future we're going to become, as a population, more progressive or conservative or what?
I think overall we'll probably become more progressive for the most part. It depends how you
But
define
do you
like more
believe that
progressive.
among young people there's sort of a rebellion against progressivism because of overstepping?
So I think we will see like an increase in the backlash to progressivism, but I think we will come out more progressive probably. Like it seems like that's the way the world's headed. Especially our generation seems to get more progressive.
Out of curiosity,
Yeah.
you know what nuclear fission? Have you heard? So recently, there's an experiment in California, and I've seen this interviews with this guy Dennis White about it, where basically a fission energy actually created more energy than destroyed, which would basically beat entropy. Do you see that?
Yeah, I don't think that beats entropy. Um,
Well, so basically, what had happened was they had an experiment, and the energy that was used to create the experiment was less than the amount of energy that the experiment outproduced. What I'm saying is that that's sort of the opposite of entropy, because entropy is basically when you have more energy be used up than is created, and that's what causes chaos. Whereas this sort of beats the entropy because it creates order. So what I'm saying is, I believe this nuclear fission energy will be down the line in the future, and we'll be able to create more energy than use, and therefore we won't have to use as much material world, and there won't be as much chaos. There'll be more physical material order. Does that make sense?
Um, but I mean, my understanding of fission is just that like you combine two atoms, right, and it releases energy.
No, but I'm saying that experiment showed there's
There's
more energy than
fission.
was created. So that would, by definition, mean when more energy is created than destroyed, that's the opposite of entropy, is what I'm saying.
I don't think it's. I don't think it creates more. I think it's still. I think
No,
it's
I'm
just
saying that
converting
experiment did.
energy.
What I'm saying is, in California, in Los Angeles, in the laboratory, it did do that.
A single kilogram of fusion fuel, which made up a heavy form of hydrogen. I'm pretty. I don't think. I don't think fission creates more energy than it destroys. They had a positive energy like output, but it's just transforming types of energy. It's not actually creating more than it destroys. Like I don't
No,
remember exactly
it
how
had
it
a
works.
positive energy outcome that meant they had net they gained energy than used energy for the experiment, is what I'm saying.
I don't like. Hold on. A minute.
Right?
Mass is destroyed, and no, it doesn't, because mass is destroyed and energy is released. It doesn't
What was
break. It
that?
doesn't. Mass is destroyed and energy is released.
Okay. Oh, I actually didn't read about that. So apparently, so it's basically mass being converted to energy, but that's still beating entropy because you're turning mass into more energy, which is still quite an accomplishment, and does basically mean that in the future, if nuclear fission becomes more popular, human beings will be able to use that, and they won't have to worry about limited energy supply because there's more than enough. Does that make sense?
I mean, fission will definitely lead to a less constrained energy supply. Yeah,
Um,
and will.
Also, do you know who? Do you believe it's possible it will be immortality?
I mean, in a way, yeah. I think we'll definitely. I think we'll definitely have some advancement that like slows aging and maybe stops it, and maybe one day reverses it, and then someday maybe fucking upload our consciousness to the fucking cloud. Man, I don't know.
No, I mean like be, yeah, like that. But I mean like stop or reverse aging. Do you believe that's possible?
Probably.
I would agree with that. And if that's the case, if we beat immortality, would you like to be immortal?
I don't know, man. Probably.
I would,
Um,
because being immortal means I can have as much conscious experiment as possible.
yeah. I mean, I would. I don't think I would ever. I think I definitely. I probably would. I don't think I would ever choose to die.
Yeah, but basically the way I heard it, well, there's this guy David Sinclair who's also been talking about it. It's just already Kurzweil talking about it. I know more about David Sinclair, but basically the idea is CRISPR technology will be able to create more cells, or then will be destroyed in the body, which will basically be able to reverse physical signs of aging, which will basically mean beating immortality, right?
Yeah.
And do you think it's possible that will be possible in my lifetime?
Um, I think we'll definitely slow aging in our lifetime, but I don't think we'll beat it in our lifetime.
Do you think in my lifetime, and I'm 16 years old, given
Yeah, I'm
how long
18.
humans are already, that it'll be possible for me to live long enough to where I'll eventually get to that and beat immortality?
No, I think we're doomed, my guy. I think it's over for us. Um, but our
No, because in
grandchildren,
my
maybe.
case, I'm 16, and we'll say on average human beings already live to like average 60. If we can slow that to maybe 80 or 90, and then by the time I'm 80 or 90, I'm almost certain it around what 2120 we'll get to that point.
I don't know. I think from the like fucking YouTube videos I watched in it like 3 years ago, it seems like slowing aging is really hard because we don't like fully understand how it works yet. But maybe I don't. Maybe with AI, actually, maybe we will get there. Maybe you can be saved. It's definitely possible. But I don't know.
Yeah. And if I'm asked, are there any particular women who you think are particularly hot you like to goon to, especially like Sarah Silverman or Jennifer Lopez or Jessica Biel or Christina Hendricks?
Not really. No,
Well, who do you like to goon to, then?
I'm not gonna answer that, man.
Well, do you like gooning to
Not when
pictures
I'm
of women?
streaming, especially. I want to answer it normally, but especially not when I'm
Well, do you prefer porn or pictures of women?
porn. What?
I know. And is there an actress you prefer?
Not really. No.
Well, is there a specific body type of woman you prefer?
Okay, I'm not answering that, man. We're done here. All right. It's been cool chatting to you, man.
Do you like the
Uh,
guy in the porn video to look like you?
no, what the fuck? No. It's been great talking to you, my guy. It's I'm sure we'll talk again some more. Um, you're definitely good for content. So, all right. Bye, my man. We need some subs for that chat. Wow. That was miserable. But I think I got like 2 good videos out of that. So was I better? Yeah, you probably were. Yeah. Well, no, you definitely were. Why do I have 6 viewers as soon as I stop talking to people? Why don't they all come when I'm actually talking to people and there's content that they could enjoy? Why do they all come when I'm as soon as as soon as I leave? But yeah, I don't like mass is converted into energy. The first law of thermodynamics is neither energy or mass are ever created or destroyed. They can, however, be converted to different forms. So when you burn wood, you start a chemical reaction that converts molecular structure wood into heat, which is useful for human beings. Nothing's created or destroyed. With nuclear reactions that generate net energy, you're actually converting a tiny bit of mass into heat. This is in the form of what's called binding energy. It's the glue that holds atomic nuclei together. The nuclear reaction, just like a chemical reaction, isn't creating or destroying, but it is converting. In this case, the binding energy. I have not done that. No, I have not masturbated to Anna Kasparian. You want to know a funny story, though? Oops. Uh, Basically, without getting too far into it, basically, this girl basically led me on, kinda, and her name was Aaliyah, and now, god fucking damn, they had to name the fucking Jewish immigration to Palestine. They had to name it Aaliyah, and she had to do it at the same time that I had to start reading about Israel Palestine.